The market on Helios Station hummed with the discordant melody of 100 alien languages. Damian Fletcher moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his weathered leather jacket and the scar across his jaw marking him as someone who'd seen the harder corners of the galaxy. He'd come for supplies. Nothing more. His small trading vessel needed provisions before the long journey to the Cygnus sector. He almost missed her. A flash of teal skin against the dull metal of a makeshift holding pen. A Trinaxian woman, slender with luminescent markings along her arms, sat on her knees, wrists bound with energy cuffs. A crude digital sign flickered beside her. 500 credits or best offer. Damian paused, jaw tightening. Slavery was technically outlawed in Confederation space, but on border stations like Helios, laws were suggestions at best. The Trinaxian's eyes, deep violet with flecks of silver, met his briefly before looking away. There was defiance there, not defeat. Interested, trader? A Vorkoth merchant materialized at Damian's side, mandibles clicking with anticipation. She's healthy, educated too. Speaks 6 languages. Caught trying to access restricted archives. That worth only 500 credits? Damian asked casually, masking his disgust. Need to move inventory quickly, the merchant replied. Patrol ship's due tomorrow. Damian nodded. Decision already made. I'll take her. The transaction took less than 5 minutes. The Vorkoth didn't even count the credits before deactivating the energy cuffs and shoving the Trinaxian toward Damian. She stumbled, but caught herself, maintaining her dignity. Your property now, the merchant grunted, already turning away. Damian gestured for her to follow him through the crowded market. She complied wordlessly, keeping close as they navigated to the docking bay where his ship waited. Only when the airlock sealed behind them did he turn to her. What's your name? He asked, keeping his distance. Vesper, she replied, voice melodic despite her wariness. Am I to address you as master now? Damian shook his head, reaching into his pocket. The Trinaxian flinched but held her ground. He produced a small device, pressing a button that caused the tracking band on her ankle to unlock and fall away. Damian. And you're not my property, he said firmly. I have no use for slaves. The band would have let them track you across systems. Confusion crossed her delicate features. Then why purchase me? Because nobody deserves to be sold like cargo, he replied simply. My ship's heading to Cygnus. I can drop you anywhere along the way, or help you find passage home. Vesper studied him, suspicion warring with hope. Trinaxians can't return home without proper documentation. They'll assume I'm contaminated. Then we'll get you documentation, Damian said, moving to the cockpit. But first, let's get off this station before your former owner reconsiders the deal. As the ship hummed to life beneath them, Vesper watched the humans' movements. Not a savior, she decided, but perhaps an ally. For now, that would be enough. Trust in the void, the stars streaked past the view screen as Damian's ship. The Nomad pushed through the darkness between worlds. 3 days had passed since Helios Station. Vesper sat in the co-pilot's chair, her teal skin glowing faintly in the dim light of the cockpit. The silence between them had gradually shifted from tense to comfortable. We're approaching the Corinth Expanse, Damian said, checking the navigation system. It's pirate territory, but the alternative adds 2 weeks to our journey. Vesper nodded, her silver-flecked eyes studying the star chart. I'm familiar with the region. My research frequently took me through dangerous sectors. Damian raised an eyebrow. I was an anthropologist at the Trinaxian Science Academy, she explained, her melodic voice tinged with bitterness. Studying interspecies cooperation. Ironic, considering how I ended up. Damian adjusted their course slightly. How does an anthropologist become merchandise? My research uncovered evidence that certain Trinaxian officials were collaborating with slave traders, Vesper said. I was declared a traitor, my citizenship revoked. The perfect way to silence dissent turned the whistleblower into the very thing she fought against. The ship's warning system chirped suddenly. Damian's hands flew across the controls. Proximity alert. Unidentified vessel. Approaching fast. Pirates? Vesper asked, tensing. Likely. Damien flipped several switches, powering up the shields. You might want to strap in. The first impact rocked the Nomad, sending loose items clattering across the floor. The communications system crackled. Attention trader vessel. Powered down and prepared to be boarded. It's not happening, Damien muttered, executing a sharp, evasive maneuver. He glanced at Vesper. Can you handle weapon systems? Without hesitation, she moved to the tactical station. 8 years in the academy includes mandatory defense training. A smile flickered across Damien's scarred face. Target their engines only. I don't need more blood on my hands. Former military? Vesper asked, fingers dancing across the weapons controls. Mercenary, he corrected, guiding the ship through a series of tight turns. Spent a decade fighting other people's wars before I realized I'd lost track of which sides deserved winning. Vesper fired precisely, disabling one of the pursuing ships. The second veered off after taking damage to its navigation system. Damien plotted a new course, taking them deeper into an asteroid field where the larger pirate vessels couldn't follow, as the immediate danger passed. Vesper studied her unlikely rescuer with new understanding. It seems we're both running from our pasts. Everyone in the outer systems is running from something, Damien replied, the tension in his shoulders easing. The trick is figuring out what you're running toward. Vesper's luminescent markings pulsed softly. I haven't thought that far ahead yet, well, Damien said, offering a rare, genuine smile. We've got time to figure it out. The Nomad continued through the asteroid field. Two strangers bound not by transaction, but by something less tangible beginning to form between them. The spaceport on Navara buzzed with activity. A hodgepodge of cultures and species coexisting in the neutral trading hub. Damien guided Vesper through crowded streets, past vendors hawking wares from 100 worlds. Her teal skin drew curious glances, but Navara's diversity meant she wasn't entirely out of place. We'll stay here while I arrange proper documentation, Damien explained. Leading her toward a modest lodging district, I have contacts who specialize in helping people, disappear. Is that what you think I want? Vesper asked, her violet eyes scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. To disappear? Damien paused, considering her question. I thought you might want a fresh start. New identity, new world, perhaps she conceded, following him into a small but clean establishment. Though I wonder if hiding solves anything. The room he secured had 2 separate sleeping areas and a shared common space with a view screen, showing the spectacular orbit of Navara's twin moons. As night fell, they shared a meal of local cuisine. Vesper, discovering a fondness for Navaran spiced bread that brought a genuine smile to her face. You're familiar with this? Place, she observed as Damien moved comfortably through the routines of the port. City spent 3 months here. Recovering from a job gone wrong, he admitted, rolling up his sleeve to reveal a twisted scar that ran from wrist to elbow. Local doctor patched me up. No questions asked. Vesper's fingers hovered over the scar before gently touching it. Damien tensed, but didn't pull away. Her touch was cool against his skin. We have similar patterns, she murmured, extending her arm alongside his, revealing how her natural markings mirrored the path of his scar. On my world, this would be considered a sign of kindred spirits. Something shifted between them in that moment, a boundary crossed without words. Damien cleared his throat, withdrawing his arm slowly. I should check in with my contact. Tomorrow we'll know more about our options. As days passed on Navara, they fell into an unexpected rhythm. Mornings exploring the market, afternoons where Vesper shared her knowledge of various cultures while Damien taught her the practical skills of surviving on the fringes of civilized space. Evenings spent in comfortable conversation, the distance between them gradually diminishing. On the 5th night, watching the moons rise from a rooftop garden, Vesper turned to him. What happens after you secure my documentation? You've never said? Damien hadn't allowed himself to consider this question. That depends on what you want, where you want to go. And if what I want has changed, she asked softly, her markings glowing more intensely in the moonlight. Before he could answer, his communicator buzzed. Documents are ready, he said after reading the message. We collect them tomorrow. Vesper nodded, but the question lingered between them, unanswered, yet unavoidable. Whispers of betrayal, the morning light filtered through Navarra's atmospheric dome, casting rainbows across the marketplace. Damien moved purposefully through the crowd, Vesper close behind. His contact, a Lurian hacker named Jorith, had arranged to meet them at a quiet cafe near the spaceport's edge. "Something feels wrong," Vesper whispered, her markings pulsing with anxiety. After weeks in each other's company, Damien had learned to trust her intuition. "Stay alert," he murmured, one hand resting on the concealed blaster beneath his jacket. "If anything happens, head straight back to the ship." Jorith waited at a corner table, three-fingered hands wrapped around a steaming mug. His amphibian features revealed nothing as they approached, but Damien caught the subtle movement of others in the cafe, too coordinated. "Too attentive, your documentation," Jorith said, sliding a data chip across the table. As promised, Damien reached for it cautiously. "Seems awfully easy. The Trinaxian government has increased the bounty," Jorith replied, eyes darting to Vesper. "They're particularly interested in recovered property with access to sensitive information." The betrayal stung, but didn't surprise Damien. "How long have the hunters been here?" "Arrived yesterday," Jorith admitted. "Nothing personal, Fletcher." "Never is," Damien muttered, then flipped the table. Chaos erupted. Blaster fire scorched the wall where they'd been standing moments before. Damien pulled Vesper down behind a service counter, returning fire to cover their retreat. Pain blazed across his side, a grazing shot, but enough to slow him. They fled through back alleys, pursuit close behind. Vesper supported him as they navigated the labyrinthine streets, heading not toward the spaceport but into Navarra's undeveloped wilderness zone by nightfall. They'd found shelter in an abandoned atmospheric monitoring station. Vesper examined Damien's wound by the light of her bioluminescent markings, her touch gentle but sure as she applied emergency sealant from his medkit. "Why didn't you leave me?" Damien asked, wincing as the sealant bonded with his flesh. "You could have reached the ship." "For the same reason you purchased my freedom," she replied, her violet eyes meeting his. "Some debts can't be measured in credits." The intimacy of the moment overwhelmed them both. Damien's hand caught hers, holding it against his chest. "This wasn't part of the plan." "Plans change," Vesper whispered, leaning closer until their foreheads touched a gesture of deep significance in Trinaxian culture. "As do people." Their kiss transcended species and circumstantive at first, then deepening with shared understanding. Her markings illuminated the darkness around them, pulsing in rhythm with her quickening heartbeat. Morning would bring new dangers, new decisions. But for now, wrapped in each other's embrace, they found sanctuary in the most unexpected of places with each other. Dawn broke over Navarra's wilderness zone, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Damien stood at the monitoring station's observation deck, his wound stiff but healing. Vesper joined him, her cool fingers intertwining with his. "The hunters will check the spaceport first," he said. "But they'll expand their search pattern by midday." "Then we need a plan that doesn't involve running," Vesper replied, determination hardening her melodic voice. "I've spent too long being hunted." Damien turned to her, studying the face that had become so dear to him in such a short time. "What are you thinking?" "The data that got me branded a traitor. I still have it," she revealed, tapping the iridescent marking at the base of her neck. "Trinaxian genetic data storage. The evidence of official collusion with slave traders is encoded in my own DNA."
What?
Understanding dawned. "You want to broadcast it. Navarra has a subspace communications array powerful enough to reach the Confederation Council," Vesper confirmed. "If we can access it, we expose the truth to every system simultaneously. No more hiding." The plan was audacious, dangerous, perhaps impossible. But looking at Vesper, Damien saw not the frightened captive from Helios station, but a woman of extraordinary courage. Their return to the city was carefully timed to coincide with the docking of a Confederation diplomatic vessel distraction that would divide the hunter's attention. Using access codes from his mercenary days, Damien secured them entry to the communications facility while Vesper prepared the data for transmission. The hunters found them, as they knew they would. The ensuing firefight was brief but intense. Damien held them off long enough for Vesper to complete the broadcaster. Personal testimony, along with irrefutable evidence of corruption reaching every corner of civilized space, as they made their desperate escape to the Nomad. An alert flashed across public screens throughout the spaceport, an emergency declaration from the Confederation Council, announcing immediate sanctions against the implicated Trinaxian officials and a system-wide manhunt for known slave traders in the safety of hyperspace. Bandaged and exhausted but alive, they finally faced the question that had hovered between them since that night under Navarra's moons. "Where do we go now?" Damien asked as the stars streaked past. Vesper's luminescent markings pulsed softly as she moved to stand before him. "The proper question is, where do we go together?" "Together," he echoed, testing the word that had never before been part of his solitary existence. "My research was about interspecies cooperation," she reminded him with a smile that transformed her face. "Perhaps it's time for a more intimate case study." Damien laughed, the sound unfamiliar, but welcome. "That might take years of thorough investigation." "I have time," Vesper replied, her cool hands framing his face as she drew him into a kiss that promised a future neither had dared imagine. "We both do now." The Nomad continued its journey through the stars, carrying not a trader in his cargo, but two people who had found in each other something worth more than freedom itself at home.